I'm sure you've all seen those ads on YouTube for the game Hero Wars. And of course, I'm sure you've all noticed that these ads are all similar in nature. Some of them are a little bit lewd, some of them are a little bit hinting, and a lot of the times they're filled with very, very, very frustration-generating gameplay. A lot of the times, the videos generate this sense of puzzle solving that the player should easily be able to do, however the user on the screen does not. And this causes you super big frustration, and you go, well, if I played that game, I would totally do things the right way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play that game, and we're going to see firstly if it's anything at all like the adverts, or realistically if this game is just essentially some kind of cheap money grab. The answer is not going to surprise you. I'm sure most of you will know how this is going to end, but I want to really take a look at this game and get a good feel for exactly where it fails and essentially what it could have done to actually make itself turn out to be something a bit better. Now, the big thing with Hero Wars is essentially the games I would compare it to is games like Blue Archive, games like AFK Arena, where you have an idle battling game. So you choose your party, they battle other units, parties, and you just choose when the skills go off. It's a very, very, very straightforward game. The style and everything we'll kind of talk about a bit later. But right now I just want to highlight the various game modes. And there are quite a few of them. However, none of them really manage to be enjoyable due to the very, very unspectacular gameplay. Idle battlers are games whereby the game is basically essentially auto battling for you. So a lot of the big draw when it comes to idle battlers is the skill usage. When do you use your skill? How do you use it? And the makeup of your team. In Hero Wars, there's nothing indicative of the overall style and team building aspects of the game. There's no indication whether a unit's a damage dealer, a healer, a tank. You can't choose the way your roster lines up. It will automatically place them in an order ascertained by the game. You cannot control anything about the lineup beyond the skills, and the skills themselves are all pretty lackluster. Everything ranging from PvP to the roguelike tower game mode to the standard campaign mode all relies on the exact same combat, which is fine when you're doing an auto battler, but the animations, the sound design, nothing is conducive to creating an enjoyable atmosphere. A lot of idle battlers thrive off of the moment when you're looking at the screen, it being an entertaining experience. Where Hero Wars kind of fails is that the game itself has no entertaining experience. The team building aspect of the game is also mute, because the team building aspect of the game has no conducive effects to design. There's no breakdown of whether it's physical or magical type damage. There's no breakdown of who's a damage dealer, whether they're ranged or melee. It doesn't seem to have any kind of inference on the game at all. So it's incredibly shallow. And where a lot of idle battlers kind of get their, I want to say, depth, a great example is like Blue Archive, where you have to consider the damage types, the armor types of the units, you have to consider the environment that they are going to be combating in, and you have to, kind of think about your team's lineup and their respective interactions with each other. This one definitely just feels super shallow. There is some level of unit design, but it is just raw stats for the most part, and so what tends to happen is the experience is very unenjoyable. With that being said, obviously kind of wanting to highlight a little bit here the sound design. Okay, the game is very quiet. The game is super quiet. I've cut out the background music. You can hear nothing pretty much. The game is super quiet. The units have no callouts and no voice lines. There's no indications that skills are going off. When skills do go off, nothing's happening. the battle theme that you see now or hear now is exactly the same in every single game mode. PvP, campaign, tower, it's all the same generic interactive, well, generic interactive, but generic baseline audio. And so this also does not assist the game and its functionality. Being so quiet, being so lack of audio and visual cues, for me, what it does is it essentially diminishes any kind of good performance that the idle battling functions can take. The side game modes are also not spectacular. You have your usual mission board side game mode, you have your roguelike tower, you have PvP and ranked PvP, which again are not too enjoyable. You have the campaign, and you have essentially like a boss mode called the Outland. Honestly, none of these are strictly entertaining. The big draw card, or I would say the big thing people will ask is, are the minigames, are the puzzles there? Well, they are. So they are exactly as you see in the advert, and this is a horrendous thing because the advert is designed to frustrate you through how simple the puzzles are, and your frustration grows because the user is clearly making simple mistakes, causing them to be defeated. When you do these puzzles, you're not making those simple mistakes. So all you're doing is doing a 1, 2, 3, 4 step process and getting the victory. Not to mention, a lot of the animations from the ones that are shown in the ads are just removed. So for example, you saw in the original advert, you had like a whole Song Wukong kind of thing going on. That's just removed, like completely. You see a lot of, I would say, lewd or alluring kind of adverts with big women and a lot of, let's say almost erotic material, also removed. Not that I care about that, but for someone who's watched the ads and cares about it, they're not going to see it. So it's all just kind of a pandered, updated, kind of non-in-game variant for a lot of these things. And it's just not enjoyable. Like when you realize how simple all of the puzzles are, when you're doing them, the rewards you get aren't significant, the effect it has on you isn't significant, and it's just incredibly tedious to go through. Obtaining heroes is your standard gacha affair, and you can buy the gems that you use to get the heroes. The heroes themselves go through a very mild animation process when being summoned, and a new hero will have essentially no fanfare, but just a turn card and a back illustration that's shown, which will have a weirdly photorealistic picture of the character that you would have seen at the beginning of the video with Galahad. So like some weird, not even remotely interchangeable design philosophy over there, but it is what it is. In terms of upgrading your heroes, very heavily influenced by the monetization system. So playing the game, you're essentially speedrun through chapter 1, and then immediately things start to slow down from chapter 2. You'll have to replay stages to get equipment pieces. You'll have to fill up all your equipment slots to promote your heroes, and promoting your heroes gives you a boost. Your heroes are also very heavily tied to their level. Level is very heavily tied to your character profile, and your character profile is very heavily tied to how much money you spend. You get XP just by buying gems, so it's very important that they do that. Skill points are heavily tied to a cooldown system, and again you can circumvent that cooldown system by paying money. There is a skin system which gives your characters a ton of stats and a huge boost in their performance, but the skins are also again purchasable with money. So the characters and the heroes, in terms of upgrading, there's not much here. You upgrade skill points, you get equipment pieces, you upgrade their level. That's about it. There's no real control beyond that point. You get to choose what skill you want to upgrade, and you can buy them a skin if you want. The skins are unspectacular, and honestly speaking, just not a great time. Now, though I mentioned it earlier, I do want to talk again about visual and audio. This is the game menu. This is me upgrading heroes, and it is a super silent, unenjoyable experience. You can hear nothing. There's no background music, there's no menu music. Looking at characters, looking at their skins, they do almost nothing. Okay, they don't change animations, they don't adjust anything. They don't give you a new character portrait. They do essentially nothing, barring being the smallest makeover for your avatar of the character. Speaking of the characters' designs, it's not something that I'm inherently against. I think chibi designs can be really, really cute. I look at, again, referencing Blue Archive, where the characters have more adult in-frame illustrations, but then have chibi little kind of model characters. But it's the lack of distinct animations, voice lines, and like presentation that kind of ruins whatever these designs were meant to be. They also, a lot of them are clearly knockoffs of other IPs, and what that tends to do is it tends to kind of ruin the experience, because you already have a idea in your head of what the character is supposed to be, what they're supposed to look like, and so you're comparing them constantly to that. Monetization. Now, monetization, to be honest with you, is, I'm not going to say bad, but they've got all the tools and tricks of the trade. There are games that are worse. This game has some pretty low entry points towards purchasing, but it's designed to be that way. It knows it's not going to retain you for more than a couple hours. So what it does is it throws a ton of those high value discount deals your way, trying to get you to just purchase something. For example, immediately clearing a stage you've already cleared to farm gear that's locked behind making just a one-time purchase. There's tons of cheap deals thrown your way to get you to unlock these incentives. There's a VIP system to encourage you to continue spending, or to continue spending regularly so that you can maintain your VIP status. VIP essentially allows you to play a completely different game to anyone who's on a lower end of VIP. You can just automatically buy characters. Again, this is what I'm talking about, between the dissonance between the character illustration being some big-breasted lewd snake woman, and the avatar, which is just a horrendously designed, non-interesting, very bland character avatar. You can buy characters, you can buy items, any currency that you want in game you can buy with money. So anything you want you can buy with money. The only thing you can't buy is equipment, but you can buy equipment packs, which will contain equipment that you can use to upgrade your characters. So realistically speaking, there's just a ton of incentive. The game gives you incentive for buying gems the first time every day. The game gives you incentive for spending gems the first time every day. The game gives you rewards based on the cumulative amount of gems you've spent. So it's all kind of just geared towards buying, and it throws a lot of cheaper deals your way, because what it's trying to do is to get you to spend that first little bit and continue to buying small incremental amounts, more so than trying to get you to make big purchases out the way. Because it knows it's not going to retain you for a long time, but it's hoping it can string you along into 2 or 3 super cheap deals to kind of give the game the money it wants out of you, more so than trying to get you to actually invest in the game for a long period of time. So whereas I wouldn't say everything's not affordable, I would just say it's on the verge of being just about affordable in every sense of the way, but with no real tangible gain and no real reason to do so. Not to mention you can watch ads for pretty much everything in-game as well, which is another one of those cheaper ways to make money out of the player base. So now let's talk about my final thoughts on the game. For me, the adverts generate player frustration. The game overall generates player boredom. It's an horrendously boring game. It has no attraction to it. The characters, the animations, the summon animations, nothing's attractive. Even if they kept everything the same, but put more effort into the character animations, a little bit more work on the sound design, and some kind of personality into the game, you probably would find people that actually play this thing. because it has everything else that's your generic kind of bland idle battler, but it's enough to get by. It's got all the requisite game modes, but the real issue that it has is it's just really, really boring, and the lack of soul and flavor in it really just detracts from anything that you want to do with this game. The ads are terrible, the game is even more boring, and quite frankly, I think it's one of those examples of a viral, in all the wrong ways, ad campaign, really promoting a game that, honestly speaking, has no love to it and is very clearly just whatever kind of cash we can sucker out of people who will spend the initial pack amount for us. If it's $2 a person, so be it.